And where I want to start out with this story, and I'm going to read in 2 Chronicles 18 and 20 and through 22. And before I do that, this is talking about Ahab. Ahab was a Jewish king. He was the king of Israel. And he married this gal that a lot of us know as Jezebel. And so Jezebel, out of the tribe that she come out of, that was around in that area, they worshiped Baal. Baal was a man that set himself up and become a false prophet, and he basically started his own religion. And then through this religion, this pagan worship, or this pagan religion, it started growing and magnifying. Then they started requiring human sacrifice. There was all kinds of things that just went beyond, and it started going into a demonic realm. And so Jezebel come out of that type of worship. She was a worshiper of Baal. And so now Ahab was the Israelite king, which served the one and true only God. And so, but yet he thought it fitting, one, to keep peace in the kingdom, and two, Jezebel was a looker. She was good looking. So if he had to marry somebody outside to try to keep peace, why not marry somebody that's pretty? And so that's what he done. He made the choice. He married her. And then the whole time we see Ahab in his life going back and forth. Because he would run over here to the prophets of God, the true prophets, and he would seek wisdom for the nation of Israel of what they were supposed to be doing. And then the next thing we'd know that he would run back over to Jezebel's prophets, the false prophets of Baal, and seek to what they would be doing, have him to do. And he was going back and forth, back and forth. And Jezebel just loved this. She loved it because she was playing with him. She was toying with him. She was seeding these ideas into him because she hated God. She hated the Jews. She was very evil. She was very vindictive. It even talks about in Kings that she went and that she forged a letter and sent out a letter and a decree to get an innocent man killed just so she could own his property. And so that she was a very wicked woman. And but anyway, it comes to this point that now that we're getting to the part in 2 Chronicles, right before we're getting to read, and right up there at the start of 2 Chronicles, chapter 2 or 18 there, it starts talking about them. Finally, Jehoshaphat come in there and said, is there not any true prophets of God that is left in this country? Is there not anybody left that is willing to tell you the truth? He goes, well, we got all of these prophets over here. And he said, yeah, but man, he said, all of these prophets up here. He said, come on, dude, think about this. They're all on your payroll. They're Jezebel's prophets that are all on your payroll. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. They're not going to tell you what God really wants you to know. And so this one dude spoke up and he said, hey, there's one true prophet that is left and he's in prison. Think about that. One true prophet of God that was left for all the nation of Israel, and he was in prison. And they had him locked up. Why? Because when people start to hear the truth, sometimes they don't want to hear it. And so then they do everything that they can to disregard it. See, the first thing that Jezebel did when she come into being in power, when she married Ahab, was she killed what she thought was all of the prophets of God. She had every one of them assassinated and killed by the sword, except one guy. And so they didn't know what to do with him, so they threw him in prison. And he stayed in prison. And so then they got out there and they called this guy out of prison. He gets out of prison and he's going up there and he's going to tell it like it is. And so then this Jehoshaphat, he tells him, he said, you know, what is God speaking? What is God saying to us? He said, I have looked at the host of heaven. And on the right hand there stands a host of angels. And on the left hand there stands a host of angels. And he's calling out, he said, who will go against Ahab and kill him and take him out? Now, see, a lot of the times, that's why they had him locked up, is because they didn't want to know the truth. They didn't want to know that Ahab was sinning, that he had fallen into this sacrilegious type of worship. So they locked him up. But then when he started to prophesy and he started to speak this thing out and it started to happen, all of a sudden God come and put a word in his mouth. And here's what God put in his mouth. Then came out a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in his mouth of all of his prophets. And the Lord said, thou shalt entice him, and thou shalt also prevail. Go out and do even so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of their prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil against thee. Now see, unless you study this all the way out, and that's why I like to do a little bit of commentary before and afterwards, is so that way you don't go away getting confused. Because people will say, see, I knew that God was evil and that he would do evil things. No, God is not evil and God would never do evil things. God plays by the rules and he will not break the rules. But see, here's what this is actually saying. And when you study this out and you start looking at what all this is and breaking it down, what it's talking about is that God... we have to understand Satan is still a ruler of this realm. Satan still has access. And so just like with Job, where was Satan? In God's throne room, walking back and forth, enticing and saying, look at all your people, there's no one left out there. So see, this is that. Also, there was lying spirits that is up there. And so God said, what he done is he said that I will relieve my spirit over the nation of Israel and I will allow this to happen in their lives. Now, why would God do that? Well, if you look at the Israel's history, if you look at the nation of Israel in their history, every time that they had a good king that come into power and he tore down all of the idol worshipers and he got rid of all of the pagan worshipers and he cleaned out and he brought back true worship to the nation of Israel, Israel would prosper and they would grow in strength and in might and power and in wealth. But then through that, the working of the enemy would come in and would start to pollute that and would start to work behind the scenes to destroy what God was doing in their lives and in the kingdom. So God would test the children of Israel to see just how hard or how much that they loved him and how much they trust him, was because he would allow a bad king to come into power. See, in Daniel's second chapter of Daniel, I think it's verse 21 or somewhere in that area, and you can write this down and check it out, but it says that no man comes into power without God putting him there, and then God is the only one that can take him out. I don't know why we get so upset over all these presidents that go in and out and all these world leaders around the nation, because it's God that puts them there, and it will be God that takes them out. Now, it may not be what we like, it may not be, and that does not, now let me back up, that does not relieve us from the responsibility of doing what that we should be doing and voting our conscience and what God has called us to be convicted for and doing. But God is going to put in there who that he needs in there to what? Fulfill his plan. Now see, God would let an evil, wicked king come into power to test the children of Israel to see if they really loved him or if they were just there basking in all the finances and glory and the wealth that they had. So then through that, by him moving back, the instant that God would move back, guess what's going to come on the scene? The enemy, the lying spirit. Wickedness. You know, we look at John 8:44 and it says, and ye are the father, or ye are of your father, the devil. Now this is Jesus speaking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes, all the religious people that were standing there in their fine linen and clothes, all decked out in all of their garments of glory that they had there. And Jesus looked at them and said, ye of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abide not in the truth. What did he not do? He did not abide in the truth. And he said, because there is no truth in him. And when he speaketh lie, and he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So what Jesus was saying, even to these Pharisees and Sadducees and these religious leaders there, he's saying, you're carrying out the work of devil. You're carrying out his lies for him, to pollute the people, to lead them off track, to get them sidetracked of what that God really is trying to perform and do here. Now we know what God was trying to perform and do there. He was doing a perfect work through Jesus Christ, living his life here in the flesh so he could go and die on a cross, shedding his blood for our sins. But yet, that lying spirit was working in all of them priests and all them Sadducees and all them scribes, stirring up trouble for Jesus. So the instant that God moves back off the scene, the first thing the enemy is going to do is bring a lying spirit. Because a lying spirit will do what? It will rob and steal you of everything in your life. There is not a facet in your life that you will ever be able to grow in or prosper in or have victory in if there's a lying spirit at work. Why? Because it works to destroy your faith. It works to destroy your understanding. It works to destroy your belief and your trust in God. It works to destroy the truth that God has for you. And so the lying spirit will work, and that's exactly what happened here. Was that lying spirit went to work in the people, and Jezebel went out there and murdered and slaughtered all of them priests and done all that to try to extinguish the truth because they were covering it up. Ahab thought, God said, these prophets said that I'm going to go to battle and I'm going to win in this area, and I'm going to go to battle and win in this area. And he was doing that, but it was lying to him. God knew from the beginning that lie would eventually catch up with him. God knew in the beginning by him pulling back that all of their sins and all their wickedness would be tried, and it would come to pass and it would come to light. And so, that God would move back out of a situation to let that lying spirit work so he can bring glory to himself later. And that's exactly what happened. Eventually, Ahab was killed, and Jezebel was killed, and the dogs feasted on her blood that was out in the fields. Because that's what the true prophets spoke. Because of their wickedness that they allowed to happen. And so, as we see this in our lives, we look nowadays and we see how a lying spirit is working in our nation. We see how a lying spirit is working in our lives on a daily basis. I believe a lying spirit has been released into the United States now to work, and to work rapidly. Why? Because you look right now and you look at this nation and it's divided right down the middle. I mean, it's almost 50-50. You've got people that claim to be Christians. You've got people that claim to be sold out for Jesus Christ, but yet they think abortions are okay. You've got people that are sold out and say they're sold out for Jesus Christ and living that way, but yet they live in a homosexuality. You have people that live in an adultery situation. You have people that are doing horrible things. Now, I'm not preaching not love against them, because, see, every one of them has a chance for salvation and a chance to turn around and have the righteousness of God to cleanse them for all of their sins. But what I'm trying to say is that spirit has come in to a point and told them that it's okay. It's okay. You know, I want to tell you, I think one of the most wicked devices that has ever been created has been politics. You look at this, and our nation is divided in between everybody here, where you got Democrats and Republicans. And again, I'm not preaching, politics here, but it's split down the middle. I mean, we are a nation that is struggling right now. We are a nation that is struggling for truth, and yet the other half thinks they have truth, but yet, if we have truth, they can't have truth. We both cannot be right. And see, and that's what the lying spirit has told them. Some of them are standing there, and it's like, well, it's to each their own. Have we heard that? It's to each their own. It's not hurting me. It's not hurting me, so what difference does it make? It's okay. And yet, our society gets more corrupt and more wicked as we believe that lie that everything is okay. Now, where does that affect us in our lives? Well, as the society goes downhill and everything gets rougher, then so does that in our lives personally, because it starts with us personally that is allowing this to happen in the first place. So we have to be bought into this lying spirit that is working all over the nation. And the only way there is to break a lying spirit is through the power of truth. It's for people to stand up for truth. Now, what will a lying spirit do? A lying spirit will tell you that God hates you. A lying spirit will tell you that there's no hope for you. A lying spirit will tell you that you might as well give up. A lying spirit will tell you that you don't have a chance. A lying spirit will tell you it doesn't matter anyway. A lying spirit will tell you that there is no God. A lying spirit will do whatever it can to do just that, to lie to you and deceive you. A lying spirit, it covers up the beauty of grace. A lying spirit will cover up the beauty of righteousness. A lying spirit will cover up the mercy of Jesus Christ. But see, we have to, when we start bringing out the truth, it starts to break out the lies, and it starts to deliver us to where we can see. You know, I was teaching here a while back in 2 Corinthians where it talks about, the breaking down the strongholds. You know that word stronghold right there in the Greek, it gives two different words there in the Greek for it, and one of them, it portrays a prison. And what does a prison do? A prison is designed to keep people in. And so then the other one, it portrays a word that would be a fortress. Well, what does a fortress do? A fortress keeps people out. So a stronghold is keeping the truth of God from getting to you to set you free. And then if you're in prison, the prisoner that is in there, once that you see the truth, it gets to where you can't get out. For fear. The devil loves to just work in multi-levels in our lives. See, but here's the thing. Once the truth goes to work in our life, truth is powerful. Truth is life-changing, and truth will set you free. Jesus Christ said the truth will set you free. If you know the truth, it will set you free. So what is the truth? The truth is that God come in the flesh, died on a cross, bled His blood so we can have a life that is more abundant. You know, in John 10:10 it says that Jesus, out of His own words, He said, Satan, Lucifer, the devil, he comes to kill and to steal and destroy. He said, but I come to give you life and give it to you more abundantly. And that word right there, abundantly, is petty sauce in the Greek. And it means anything above measure. So whatever is wrong in your life, whatever you're struggling for in your life right now, God wants to give it to you above measure. Anywhere in your life that you need help in, God is there to bring it to you above measure. But a lying spirit will tell you, it's not for you. You can't have it. That's for the little old lady that served God all over their life. You've done too many things. You've went too many ways. that is wrong. And that's never going to be for you. You'll never be able to achieve that. You'll never be able to earn that. You'll never be able to be good enough to get that. And that is a lying spirit has gone out and it is working in your life. And you have to stand up and know the truth that Jesus Christ died to give you a life that is more abundant, a life that is beyond measure, a life of victory and freedom. And so what that lying spirit, by God pulling back, and by God allowing that lying spirit would work in their lives and work in their nation to a point that they become sick and they become worried and they become wore down, and pretty soon they become sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when they come to that state of being sick and tired, they would turn around and they go, you know what, I remember a story that somebody told me about a Savior that would come for me, that would deliver me. And start crying out. Sometime when God pulls back and that lying spirit is working in our lives, it's to let us to get to a point that we become sick and tired of being sick and tired. To where we got to know inside of ourselves that it has to be better because it can't get no worse. How many of us has been there to where that we know that it just had to get better because it wasn't able to get any worse? I can tell you, there was many a times that I just was so haunted in my spirit, and I knew that it had to be better. I knew that serving Jesus had to be more than what I was getting. I knew that there had to be more to it, but I had lived in a lie all of my life, in bondage, and I was trapped. I was riddled with suicidal thoughts, bound in all kinds of strongholds, miserable and sick. I had to come to a place in my life where that I just fell on my face. And I said, Jesus, I can't do this no more. It's got to be you. It's got to be better than this. Because what I'm doing and how I'm doing it ain't working in my life. And it's got to be better than this. And I'm going to tell you, Jesus Christ right then, with His love, come in and started showing me the truth. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I hopped up and everything was peaches and rainbows. But what I'm going to tell you, that there was such a love and encouragement, and there was such a strength that was inside of me. It gave me the power to walk out my life with Jesus Christ, working in the areas that I needed to work on a daily basis, until I could be free in all the areas that the enemy bound me in. See, one of the lies that Satan will tell you and get you to believe that Christians are all perfect. No. You want to know the truth? 99% of them called out of the same ditch that you're in. The only thing that separates you from them is grace and the long time and the length of grace that they have been in it. But see, the devil will lie to you and tell you, oh, you're not good enough to be in that place. You're not good enough to be with them. The truth is none of us is good enough to be here. But Jesus Christ died for us so we could be. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the truth. And so we ought to be basking in that, embracing that, and bringing that to a relevance in our life. You know, in 2 Thessalonians, and this is a story that I like, because as it talks, I thought I had it marked, I did. 2 Thessalonians, we see here that Paul, in about 51 AD, he wrote the first letter to the Thessalonians on his second journey to Rome, as he was going on in his mission journey. And as he come in there and he wrote that letter to them, it was just Thessalonia was just a little bitty old area, a little province. It wasn't that big at the time, but then it started growing and prospering and becoming powerful. It became a huge port that was very financially wealthy and stuff like that. But when Paul went through there and he settled it and started working in there, when he started to do the missionary work there and set up a church, there just wasn't a whole lot there. But see, after that Paul set up him and Timothy and Silas, they come and they set up the church there in Thessalonica. Then they went on to Corinthia. And as they were in Corinthia, the church just broke out and it just astronomically started growing and prospering. And it just started getting big. And the first thing the devil done was try to bring a lying spirit into that congregation. And what they done was they come in there, there was people that come in there to the church and worked their way and got themselves into leadership. And then as they got themselves into leadership, they started teaching and preaching that Jesus Christ has already come. They said, Jesus Christ has already come. We missed it all. It was all for nothing. It wasn't for us. People that had been good Christians, their hearts were broken. They believed that lie, and they turned around and they walked away from their jobs. They walked away from their work in the church. They just abandoned everything in their life. They actually thought, well, Jesus Christ, we've missed it. There's no need to work. There's no need to do anything. We just need to give up, get in a hole, and die because we're hopeless. There was even some of them that forged letters from Paul that went to solidify this. And so when Paul caught wind of it, he wrote this letter, and he was not able to get back to the church of Thessalonica to line them out. But then he writes 2 Thessalonians. In the first chapter of it, he's encouraging them, letting them know that he still loves them and that God still loves them and there's still a plan and purpose for them and not to give up hope or sight of it. And then he goes into the second chapter there in Thessalonians, and he starts telling them about how the enemy has come into their lives and started working through deceit and trying to draw them off track and trying to rob them of their victory and their freedom that they have in Christ. And he said, and some of these has bought into this so strongly that they can't be turned back. There was some of these people that let the enemy come into their lives and tell them such a lie in their lives, and they bought into it so strongly that God said that they would just be turned over to a deceiving spirit. That they would just be no hope for them. And so what God has put in my heart to tell you tonight, that there is still hope for you. There is still a Spirit of God that is working in your life that wants to set you free. Jesus Christ is still here. Jesus Christ hasn't went anywhere. He's still here, and He still wants to do something in your life. He still wants to love you. He still wants to shower you with mercy and grace. He still wants to work in your life. But see, here's where it comes down. Revelations, and I'm putting an anchor to this thing and dragging it to a close. Revelations 2 and 4, it says, nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. How did some of them people get in such bondage buying into a lie? It's because they let themselves get cold in the first place. They let themselves get cold, losing the passion for Jesus Christ. And through that losing the passion and losing that and losing their excitement and enthusiasm for Christ, then the enemy was able to seed lies into their life that grew. So tonight, as we're coming to a close and we're slowing down, I just want you to start thinking for a moment. Have you lost your first love? Is things coming to a point that you've just kind of backed off and gotten a little cool? Because if you have, you're opening yourself up to a lying spirit.